You know, folks, very interesting. John Boehner goes on the Jay Leno show last night, so I made sure I didn't watch it. But he goes on the Jay Leno show last night. And he's just having a grand old time. And, he agrees 90% with somebody. He doesn't consider them an opponent or an enemy. It's those conservative groups in Washington, you see. Not the liberal groups, not the ethnic front groups pushing amnesty, not the U.S. Chamber of Crony Capitalism, none of them. No, it's the so-called conservative groups in Washington, you see. Groups that many of you support, that I support, that seek to be our voices inside the Beltway. They'd like to do away with them because they dare to speak up, they dare to challenge the speaker. And then there's Chuck Schumer. We had clips on Chuck Schumer yesterday. I didn't use them because there was so much to get to. And I didn't get to them yesterday because we were piled up and I explained why and so forth. But Chuck Schumer is an absolute nut job. And we'll get into some of this today, too. I mean, if Schumer's position is that we need more government, I would ask Schumer, as I would ask all of you who are endless statists, who have insatiable appetites for government, where does this end? Mr. Call Screener, leave a couple lines open for liberals, would you? Where does this end? What is your design? Can we read it somewhere? We have a constitution, we constitutional conservatives, and we are constantly trying to reestablish it while you are constantly undermining it. So the question is, what would you replace it with? You have to replace it with something. But the common theme here is that conservatives, constitutional conservatives, fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, that's what the Tea Party is. It's the modern conservative movement, are under constant attack by the ruling class, by the schmucky Schumers, by the Johnny Boehners. And if you weren't effective, you wouldn't be attacked. And what's amazing about this is Boehner is speaker because of you. Not because of the ruling class, not because of the Republican Party, because of you. So I want to start out with some of this John Boehner, and I want to analyze it my way, from my perspective, with my experience, as somebody who worked in 1976 to get Reagan elected through the Republican nomination, and we lost. Somebody who worked in the 1980 Reagan campaign, and we won. But we were the outsiders fighting the establishment. They fought us every step of the way, and they tried every dirty trick they could. We were opposed by George Will. We were opposed by Charles Krauthammer. We were opposed by the Republican apparatus, by the consultants, by the so-called Republican media, and all the rest of it. But we beat them. So you can't say, for instance, let's just focus on the Democrats. Well, there's two parties. And if neither party represent our principles, we have to focus on both parties. And we can do that. Those of us who've been through this before, like many of you and me, we can do this. And we have to do a lot more. But here's Boehner on the Tonight Show last night, and I noticed he didn't have a vodka or a cigarette in either hand. Cut one, go.
Tell me about the Tea Party, because you seem to get frustrated with that. They're what, 18%? Something like that. Yet they seem to wield such enormous power.
All right, stop. Conservatives are constantly praising this guy, Jay Leno. He's entertaining. He's okay. But he's not very bright. 18% are Tea Party. 40% of the people in this country, when asked, consistently, 42% are conservative or right center. 20% are liberal. But he uses this 18% figure. But we're talking about conservatism and conservatives. Go ahead.
I don't have any problem with the Tea Party. Those people have brought great energy to the political process. Most of them have never been involved before.
Right.
When you agree with someone 90% of the time, they're not your enemy. Right.
Stop. He doesn't have a problem with the Tea Party. Is that the best he can do? But for the Tea Party in 2010, he wouldn't be Speaker of the House. This is why this guy's a joke. That's a throwaway line. That's a throwaway line, like a liberal would do. He should be using the occasion of the Jay Leno show, when many people aren't familiar with this stuff, to make our case to the American people. But he's not going to make the case, ladies and gentlemen. He never has. He never will. And this is why I oppose him. And it's not enough to oppose him. We have to get rid of him. We have to get rid of him, or our priorities and our principles will not be advanced. I don't care if the Republicans take everything. And we saw that in the last administration. The goal here is to save the country. The goal here is to reinstitute the Constitution with the right candidates. And you fight it out in the primary process. That's what it's all about. That's how Reagan became the nominee. That's how Ted Cruz became the nominee. To say otherwise is idiotic. Now watch what Boehner does. I don't have a problem with the Tea Party. When you agree with someone 90% of the time, they're not your enemy. Well, isn't that swell? Since we gave him his job. Now watch how, like a liberal, he tries to peel off conservative organizations from conservatives. I don't have a problem with the people that, in the Tea Party. I have a problem with these groups. Go ahead.
My problem was with some Washington organizations who purport to represent the Tea Party, who I think mislead them. There's nothing I could do that was ever conservative enough for them.
Stop. Well, what have you done that's conservative, Johnny? You've buckled in every single budget fight, every single tax fight, every single debt ceiling fight. You're about to buckle on amnesty. What the hell have you done as Speaker? You get up there and you talk about 1/2 of 1/3. That's all you have. You sat down with your spin doctors. You came up with that line when, in fact, under our Constitution, the House of Representatives has enormous power. The power of the purse. Tax bills come out of the House. Spending bills come out of the House. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Where does Ted Cruz fit in there?
Well, he'd be on the conservative side, Tea Party side, but listen, Ted Cruz used to be my attorney a long time ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Look, we'll take a break.
Not that I always agree with him, but he's a good guy.
No.
Yeah, okay. Not that I always agree with him. He's a good guy. Oh, well, thanks. So basically we need John Boehner to tell us that Ted Cruz is a good guy. So far, really predictable. Very predictable. But here's my question to you folks. I'm going to play a little bit more. Millions of people watching this program. Did this man take the opportunity to advance conservative principles, to make the case to the American people? No, he's sitting there, slouched, basically focused on himself. You go back and you watch the interviews with a William F. Buckley, or you watch the interviews with a Ronald Reagan and so forth. They took the opportunity of these interviews to take the case to the American people. Boehner has no case to take to the American people. This is just infuriating to me. Do you think Barack Obama would blow it sitting there? Or Schumer, one of these other guys? More. Cut 2. Go.
Because you and Obama have a lot in common with your backgrounds. You're not wealthy kids. You aren't privileged children. You both came up, worked your way up different ways. He had a single mom. You worked in the bar. But I mean, it seems...
Stop. They don't have anything in common, quite frankly. Obama went to private schools. Obama was raised essentially by his grandparents. Obama spent a lot of time in Hawaii. Obama was a pothead. He was a cokehead. Obama was indoctrinated by a communist mentor in Hawaii. Is this what I mean? Jay Leno may be a funny guy. He is. But he's a dunce. He's dim-witted. Conservatives, as I say, go, oh, he's a good guy. Why? I don't get it. Because he makes Obamacare jokes? Okay, great. But he knows nothing of Obama's background. Zero. Now let's hear what Boehner had to say. Go.
Ever sort of sit down and talk about them?
Oh, he and I get along fine.
Yeah.
We get along fine. But, you know, we come at this...
Stop. They get along fine? So we get along fine. We get along fine. Really? How do you get along with Tea Party conservatives in the House of Representatives, guys like Louis Gohmert? How do you get along with Michelle Bachmann? I don't get along with them, no, they're jackasses. Yeah, no. But Obama, yeah, we get along fine. Go ahead.
From a very different perspective.
Okay.
You know, I'm right of center. I think he's way left of center.
Okay.
Stop. That's what I mean, missed opportunity. What does that mean, I'm right of the center? How about this, Johnny? After all your years in the House of Representatives, try something like this next time. I believe in the rule of law and the Constitution. The President, with his unilateral actions, does not. I believe in private property rights. The President, with his propaganda about inequality and his propaganda about attacking capitalism and so forth, he obviously does not. I believe in creating wealth. He believes in redistributing wealth. I believe in creating jobs. He believes in creating unemployment compensation. I believe in a robust economy, so 40-some-odd million people aren't on food stamps. He believes in food stamps. Is it absolutely impossible for a guy like John Boehner to make basic points like this? I think so, because he doesn't believe in it. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
What's happened in Washington here over the course of the 24 years that I've been there, is that there's not as much common ground as there used to be.
Yeah.
Yes, Republicans believed in X and Democrats believed in Y. But there was enough common ground to come to some understanding. But the country's gotten more partisan. As a result, the Congress has gotten more divided.
Yeah.
And
no, it hasn't. No. See. What you should say is the Democrat Party has become an extreme party. There are no more so-called moderates and centrists in the Democrat Party, or they're few and far between. So they've moved so far left, they're so radical, that we're trying to address this. But he doesn't say that. He says there's partisanship, meaning on both sides. Isn't this remarkable? That the man doesn't even know what's swirling around him? No wonder he can't speak. Then Boehner's sitting there on the couch with Jay Leno. Maybe he ought to be sitting on a couch, but not so much with Jay Leno. And he makes an extraordinary statement. He's made it before, but I guess he thinks this is effective. But it's stunningly stupid. Listen carefully to this. Mark, why are you so hard on this guy? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to win. I'm tired of these guys that mope around staring at their loafers on Capitol Hill, who are timid, who are passive. And I'm tired of the wagons that are circled around them to defend them. You don't defend mediocrity or worse. You must replace them. You don't go into political battles with people like this, quote-unquote, leading us. You don't go into military battles with people like this leading us. It takes statesmen to fire them, and it takes we the people in this case, because there's nobody above them. They've managed to climb the ladder, scratching and clawing their way, one step after another, into these power positions. But that doesn't make them leaders. Now you hear more and more people speaking as I am, and have been for years, about these men. Boehner and McConnell. But we shouldn't fight them. We ought to focus on the Democrats. It doesn't work that way. It's not if and or. We have no choice. This is the political party system. Anyway, cut 3, go.
This government shutdown, I think it's safe to say most people blame the Republicans for that, would you?
Yep.
Agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Stop right there. What is wrong with this man? What is wrong with this man? How could the Republicans possibly shut down the government? The Republicans are to blame. I'll get to the question of shutting down the government per se in a second, but the Republicans, listen to this guy. This is a leader. This is the Speaker of the House. He's taking Obama's lie and Harry Reid's lie and the media's lie and using it as his own. Most people blame the Republicans for shutting down the government. Would you? Yep. Absolutely pathetic. Now, we should back this guy because he's, quote-unquote, a Republican? He's buffoonish. I'm trying to hold back on some of the language, but it's really, it's infuriating to me. We elect people to go to the House of Representatives to make our case, and this is their leader? I've got more when I come back. I'm not just focused on Johnny Boehner. There's more to come, but I think this is very, very important. I'll be right back.
Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while that you shouldn't have messed with? That's Mark. And you can call him at 877-381-3811.
We need a new, reinvigorated Republican Party. We need new blood. We need some fresh faces, some confident, knowledgeable voices. We see some of it in some of the young men and women who have been newly elected, but they had to defeat the establishment, and the establishment wants none of it. They are perfectly happy with this aging Republican Party. Perfectly happy with it. And I'm not. You don't go into battle with pseudo-leaders like this. So back to Boehner. Boehner has exposed himself. This one interview with Jay Leno, he's exposed himself completely. He's nattering. He's superficial. He's me-focused. He can't get a message across. I'm stunned. The guy's been in the House 24 years. He's Speaker of the House. Let's do this cut 3 again. Go.
This government shutdown, I think it's safe to say most people blame the Republicans for that, would you?
Yep.
Agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
Okay. So that was pretty much down the dumps. And then the Obamacare rollout comes along, and that kind of boosts you back up again. Were you happy to see that?
I told my colleagues in July I didn't think shutting down the government over Obamacare would work because the president said, I'm not going to negotiate. And so I told him in August, probably not a good idea.
Can we stop a second? Can I make an honest assessment here? Are you listening to a speech pattern, Mr. Producer? Folks, turn up the volume and just listen to the speech pattern. I'm not going to say anything. You draw your own conclusion. This is getting embarrassing, quite frankly. Go ahead.
But when you have my job, there's something you have to learn.
Yeah.
When I looked up, I saw my colleagues going this way. And you learn that a leader without followers is simply a man taking a walk.
Right.
So I said, you want to fight this fight? I'll go fight the fight with you.
Right.
But it was a very predictable disaster.
Yeah.
So
let's stop right there. So in other words, every time he came out and spoke and supported the fight, he was lying. It was a fraud. He didn't come out at the time and say, hey, look, I don't support my troops here. I told them back in August, let's not do this. So in other words, when he was speaking out, and when he was insisting that they were taking the right position, he was lying. The man doesn't even realize how he's damaging himself. Go ahead.
The sooner we got it, the better.
Yeah.
But remember the issue. The issue was we wanted to delay Obamacare for a year because it wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. And then we asked them to at least delay the individual mandate for a year. Mm-hmm. So we were fighting for the right things. I just thought tactically it was not the right way to do it.
So now he steps back. So these were the right things to fight over. Just don't fight over them. So they're the right things to fight over, but don't fight over them because we can't win. This is what I mean. What would Abraham Lincoln do with a general like this? Fire him. How come he didn't use his overused, worn line at that point with Jay Leno and say, hey, look, no, we didn't shut down the government. We only control 1/2 of 1/3 of the government. How can we shut down the government? But he didn't. He didn't because he wants to be on the side of the quote-unquote winners. Here you have the Speaker of the House throwing his caucus over the cliff. And how about to use the occasion, Johnny, not only to set the record straight on who shut down what, but on what Obama did. Can you imagine, Jay, he could have said, we had 90-year-old men traveling to Washington, D.C. to go to the World War II memorial. Their one and only chance to see it. An open space memorial, and the President of the United States sent the park rangers there to block it off so they couldn't see it. Totally unnecessary. Never done before in a government shutdown, of which there have been 20, by the way, Jay. Maybe you didn't know that. Block the Vietnam Vets Memorial, block the Korean Vets Memorial, block the Martin Luther King Memorial to punish the American people. Totally unnecessary, Jay. And one other point, Jay, that I should mention. The vast majority of the American people were completely unaffected by this. Completely unaffected. You see, Jay, there are areas of the government where we don't have to harm the American people in a punitive way, but where we can make cuts. Let me tell you, Jay, let me give you an example. Our good friend, Senator Coburn, one of the serious fiscal conservatives in Congress. 3 years running, he's had the General Accountability Office produce a report where that office, a government office, reports that there's $200 billion a year in waste, fraud, and abuse and overlap and so forth. And we could have started there, but the president wouldn't. Instead, he said, my way or the highway. He wouldn't work with us. You know, in our system of government, you kind of have to work, at least communicate with each other. President said no. $200 billion. I look at the people in this audience, Jay, and I say to myself, every one of you here, you work hard, you have families, you're paying an enormous amount in taxes. If the federal government can save $200 billion and not shut down, why wouldn't it? Wouldn't that have been a relatively effective statement? I'm doing this off the top of my head. Would it not, Mr. Producer? Instead, he sits there. More John Boehner. Cut 4, go.
Well, who do you like in 2016?
Well, listen, I'm not endorsing anybody, but Jeb Bush is my friend, and I frankly think he'd make a great president.
Yeah, okay, so Bush Clinton again. Yeah.
We're both making assumptions here.
Well, okay, all right.
Again, Boehner is exposing himself. He's defining himself in ways in which I've done it before, but now he's doing it himself. He's a ruling class RINO. That's what he is. He's a French Republican. The first name he utters is Jeb Bush, another Bush. So out of all the people who might run, out of all the people, great governors, senators, congressmen, and so forth, Jeb Bush. I'm telling you, This guy is just a disaster. And finally, I know some of you are saying, oh, God, thank you. Finally, cut 5, go.
You ever think of running for president?
No.
No? You know
No.
what? You want to show what you did when I asked you that question before? You want to show what you told me?
Listen, I like to play golf. I like to cut my own grass.
Right.
You know, I do drink red wine. I smoke cigarettes.
Right.
And I'm not giving that up to be president of the United States.
Right.
Ah, very good. Well, you're not going to be president of the United States. And I hope you're not going to be speaker. Not because I want the Democrats to win. I certainly don't. But there are many, many men and women in the House of Representatives. Not enough, but there are some, many, who would be a better speaker. Who would have used this opportunity to be on Jay Leno to communicate with people who may not be paying attention to politics, who somebody like this may not normally have an opportunity to make the case to. This is the problem. Republicans should be making the case for our principles everywhere they go. And you know what I got out of this? The man didn't make any case for any of our principles at any time during this interview. None. And he even participated in the rewriting of history to help the Democrats. You can't say this guy's buffoonish, but we have other fights to fight. This is part of our problem. We have a lot of battles to fight. And we have to fight them all. Defeating Obama's a priority, but he's reelected. So we focus on primaries, and we focus on these so-called leaders, because they're not leaders. This is an embarrassing spectacle. That's what it is. It's a spectacle. The guy rambles on. The guy attacks his own caucus. The guy doesn't make a single principled point. He doesn't inform anybody about anything. And that's it. And I could play more clips, but I've had enough. I'm not playing any more of his clips. And by the way, this is an unusual show today for me in that I'm not the kind of guy that goes on and plays clip after clip after clip. But I listened to this and I said, you know what? Many of you didn't see this. So I feel you need to hear it.